The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Talofa Lover. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Welcome to The Real Pod.
Yeah, kia ora, welcome along to The Real Pod. This is your reality TV and real life in New Zealand podcast. My name is Jane Yee. I'm joined by Duncan Grieve, managing editor of The Spin-off, and Ben Thomas, host of one of our other lovely podcasts, Gone by Lunchtime, and now like almost a semi-regular guest on The Real Pod.
After years of exclusion.
You've got the call up twice in a month. It's amazing.
The push for diversity on The Real Pod.
Diversity of thought.
So Ben's filling in for Alex Casey, who worked on The Bachelor, so she can't talk about it. She's been silenced, like Meghan Markle.
Cancel culture.
And she will be back though when this season wraps up. So your days are numbered, Ben. Sorry.
It should be about 6 days.
Yeah,
or something.
I know. If the last season of this franchise there's anything to go by, I'll be wrapping up next week.
Yeah, but the first Bachelor franchise in history to have no kissing.
We will talk about this at length. There's a lot to get through, but let's start off with just a little bit of real news. Our new Plymouth correspondent, Tara Ward, who writes on The Bachelor NZ for the Spin-off website, had a very exciting outing on the weekend. I think she was going for dinner with her husband and saw a whole load of bachelorettes.
Whoa!
All there to celebrate by our internet stalking Samantha's 30th birthday. Samantha's the very, very intense eyes. She just got sent home.
Did somebody jump out of a cake to surprise her?
No, what are you talking about? What are you referencing?
Isn't Sam the one who jumped out of the bush?
Oh, yes. She's the one who jumped out of the bush.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. Anyway, she's just turned 30, had a party, lots of bachelorettes descended upon New Plymouth. And
that does remind me of those kind of classic old seasons of the Bachelorettes when they all just became best mates and just hung around town together. That's quite sweet.
Well, they had to come out with some sort of relationship from this season. It wasn't going to be with Moses. And in other Bachelor-related news, Hamish, our winning Bachelor from the Bachelorette NZ, has been spotted starting to do some influencing of the massage, like one of those massage gun things.
Yeah, I know what they are.
They got like a round head on them and you kind of like pummel yourself with them. Well,
so
that sounds
they're
terrible,
not the ones which are like basically not for massaging your back.
What are they for? Are they...
No, it's not like a Hitachi wand.
No.
What's a
it's not an
Hitachi
adult
wand?
toy.
It's
a
Oh, okay.
It's like a bit of rubber that that just punches your muscles. It's sort of...
It looks like a drill, like a handheld drill.
Yeah, on the spectrum of home-based massage treats, you've got Rusty's all-encompassing, comfy massage coffin that he sleeps in on maths, and then the other end you've got like the kind of the stark, visceral, explosive violence of the massage gun, as modelled by Hamish.
The massage gun, very clearly not something you would want anywhere near your downstairs.
Right, okay.
I would think. Thank you for just giving maths a little shout out there, Ben. It's a nice opportunity to remind you guys that Alex Casey and I are also doing maths chat, so that should be out tomorrow, recapping Married at First Sight Australia, which is a marathon every week.
And let me just say, The podcast is great.
Thank you.
And this season of Maths is off the hook.
Oh, is it good? Do I
Yeah.
need to get in on that?
Come on in.
Okay. I might just jump. Like, this could become a monopod that's just you.
Absolutely
And
not.
We'll all just have a real big old maths
I
pod
just
on the
think
other channel.
everyone in all the pods, okay?
Okay.
Just a little bit of Colin's Cranny before we get into the recap.
Colin's Cranny. Colin's Cranny. Colin's Cranny. Cranny. Colin's Cranny.
This, again, from Colin's personal Facebook page, but it's publicly available. So I feel that it's okay to share this in the podcast. Going out usually has funny moments. Last night, I was in a bar enjoying a gin with friends when a person walks in, looks hard at me, comes up and says, "Look, I'm sorry, but do you want me to tell you the truth?" I said, "Go for it." His response, "It's so obvious you're wearing a wig and everyone can tell." I burst out laughing. I let him check I wasn't, and he didn't know where to go from there.
Oh my gosh.
Another fun night in the town. The audacity.
That feels like if you had a sketch show about Colin's life and that was one of the sketches, you'd be like, that's a champagne sketch. That's absolutely outstanding. What great writing for his Truman Show.
I can't wait to read his memoirs. Going to be so good. And that's Colin's Cranny. Let's get into reality check.
I have 4 weeks to decide I'm going to drop my entire life for you.
I am disgusted at how much you have copied my husband.
This is fine. You don't even know.
Reality check.
Right. So much to talk about. What do we start with? Intruders. Intruders have arrived. They've gone into the tiny little toilet in the boat and got changed into their cocktail outfits. And then they arrive on shore, and poor Lydia. I mean, okay, it's such an ungainly arrival. I'm not just talking about Lydia, but just in general, like having to hop out of the boat.
Off the front of it.
And straight into the water. They're all wearing like Birkenstocks and jandals. They don't even get to have their fancy high heels on when they arrive at the house.
But just such an iconic moment and quote. I didn't have any undies on. I flashed my whole vagina, bum, everything. That's verbatim.
It's vagina, comma, bum, right?
The way she said it makes
No, she was talking
sounded
about
like
the
it was a
region,
sort of a
vagina
whole
hyphen
nether
bum.
region.
That wasn't even she wasn't exaggerating.
No. Like those emojis had a lot of work to do.
They did all the heavy lifting, and then she had
Also
a boob flash just to top it all off.
Got to say, she handled that with such aplomb that I think she deserves a top 5 just based on the general bonhomie of that alone.
And while they were doing their best, dismounting, the girls on the shore were losing their shit. Just peering through binoculars, just getting all like preemptively Lord of the Flies, hurling abuse. Like I think if they had had spears, they would have like thrown those into the water. Kind of like, those islands where you don't, where Western civilization has never reached, and they fire arrows at helicopters that go overhead.
Yeah. There was definitely a sense that they had never seen and never hoped to see another woman again.
Hey, also, Sam, so the girls, remember, if you cast your mind back to last week, were preparing for what they thought was going to be a group date. And so they were getting all gussied up to go on a group date. They thought they were going to be heading out on a boat or something similar. So they've basically spent the whole day getting ready and apparently on the piss because Sam was sloshed. She was pissed as a new. I mean, allegedly.
Have someone actually be drunk, because so much of it's shot during the day in these seemingly 15-minute long, cocktail parties that you just think that, compared to the sprawling up till 4 a.m. kind of Bachelor of old, it feels very PG.
In her perhaps slightly inebriated state, she decided it would be a really good idea to jump out of the bushes. The bushes are just like some succulents planted into stones in the front of the house, and so she has to really get down, basically on the real low profile for her surprise jump out, and I think that might have been her undoing ultimately.
Well, the thing is, Moses did it, and it was fine then, but obviously, in this instance, it seems to have It's what's good enough for him is not good for them, which is, you see the same thing with his asking these interminable, unanswerable questions, and then when one's turned back on him, he's like, absolutely not.
It's like being interrogated by the Gestapo.
Everyday sexism on our televisions. Anyway, Sam did a great job of jumping out and giving everyone a big old fright. As you say, Moses wasn't keen. I think that's the reason he booted her off the show. But we'll get there. There was no explanation of how Devaney and Ilana know each other. All we know is that Ilana walked in and Devaney was like, I can recognise that blonde bob anywhere. And they had a huge hug, like very, very friendly, like best friends kind of a hug.
Maybe
and then
one
we
of
got
her 10-step siblings.
True, yep. But we never got any further information on that.
No, that does... It's like no one's doing continuity.
No. And it was the same actually last season when Jesse walked in and Jack knew him. Jack was like... was it? Yeah,
I think so.
And then again, we never had any expansion on that.
They just didn't have the pickup. On we go.
Moses called Suzanne Suzette when he introduced her to everyone.
Poor old Suzanne, eh? I really would, like, she's one of, again, the people who've been eliminated from this show, in some kind of parallel universe Lost Island where they're the ones who all stayed on, it's a much better show. Like, no doubt in my mind that the eliminated make you a better television show than the sort of kind of mice.
I'd like to see
maintained.
a spin-off version where the eliminated contestants, only in this instance, because you wouldn't want it if it were a whole lot of boring people being booted off. But in this instance, I'd like to see the eliminated contestants in a house and then all the bachelors from Bachelor, because presumably they're shooting this all at the same time. The Bachelors can't be far away. Put them all in a house together, and you've got yourself another series straight off the back of it. You're talking about cutting costs and
making
ratings
it
winner
in paradise at the same time with with a second crew shooting at night.
Absolutely. Or the same crew, but shooting at night, because they're clearly not shooting this show at night. Are you talking about the Blue Book?
Oh, I'm talking about overtime rates.
Yeah. Which is clearly on their minds. All the rose ceremonies seem to be taking place at like 2:30 in the afternoon. Suzanne made a big impact in her short time on our screens. She had perhaps some missteps.
She has a curious mind.
She has a curious
intellect.
She wanted to know where Kimmy was from ethnically, and Kimmy doesn't take it too well. I need to know for my own life if it's inappropriate to ask about someone's cultural heritage. Is it?
You're asking two white guys.
I know. Well, I am half Chinese. I get a lot of people who don't realise that, and they ask me, and I'm like, my dad's Chinese. It doesn't bother me, but I'm not sure if I need someone to tell me. You guys are obviously not the guys.
Ben's
the guy.
My sense is that if you're talking about internet trends or the fashion world, you can talk about, ethnically ambiguous as a trend. I think that if you're saying to someone you are ethnically ambiguous, it becomes more problematic.
Okay, all right, as long as I know.
I also think that had Suzanne, it was also bound up into the general suspicion of the others, and that basically they were on sort of high alert for absolutely anything they said. Suzanne was clearly just... She was a problem to all of them the way through.
They pounced on her.
They weren't likely to view any kind of statement through a charitable lens.
And then she said that she wanted to use her time on the show to use the platform to advocate for her organisation, which is some kind of poly church or something.
Yeah, like a rainbow church. I'm just a big Suzanne booster.
Yeah, me too.
I
think I find it more problematic that Warner Brothers or Moses or whoever kicked off a person of colour who's got a rainbow church cause.
And is bisexual and is already married. Basically just went through all of the things which could be held as negatives, you're out.
Yeah. I just think that's problematic in and of itself. And certainly, as someone who's separated at the moment, the stigmatism of being when she says I'm still someone's wife. She's doing it as like a bit. She's doing it as a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
But they're making it sound like it feels like there's an ownership, I belong to someone else. That's how they're presenting it, or that's how it's being interpreted by the women in the house.
It's
and the way it's being
absolutely seen as a mark against her, that yet another hurdle.
Yeah, and you can't be. You still belong to someone else, so you can't be here trying to make a life for yourself.
I thought the lethal blow though was the pile on about her being there for the wrong reasons.
Yes,
all of the current, the original contestants, the OGs. almost swarmed on her and then couldn't contain themselves, running off to Moses, saying, she's not here for the right reasons. She's here to boost her not-for-profit organisation that benefits vulnerable people.
Wants to make it even bigger not-for-profit at the end of the
how dare she?
Financial year.
And they seized on the fact that she wasn't there for the right reasons, as to why she needed to be eliminated, which in hindsight they will realise was a huge tactical error because they gave Annie, who was there for exactly the right reasons, a free pass.
You're right.
That's so true. Like they basically let two absolute kills, because Lydia is no joke either. Like she's not as calculating about it, but she's also like absolutely got final three written all over her. They focused on people who they didn't want to hang out with at the expense of people who are definitely going to beat them.
So the wrong reasons and the right reasons is a Bachelor trope that goes back forever ago. In fact, there was a Right Reasons podcast that inspired the Real Pod from way back in the day. And I've only just realised what you're saying is so true. If someone's there for the wrong reasons, everyone should be encouraging them to stay, because they're not going to want to get engaged at the end of it. They're just there for, to promote their not-for-profit or to get some more Instagram followers and so on and so forth.
And they'll nearly always eliminate themselves before the end.
The New Zealand version, particularly this version, and actually the Bachelorette as well, has evolved a third category. There's the right reasons, which is wanting a spiritual connection and eternal happiness with this rando that the production company has just put in front of you. There's the wrong reasons, which is to promote yourself to become an influencer. Mm-hmm. And then there's the kind of neutral, nothing kind of reason of wanting to hang out with the guys or the girls at the mansion.
That is everyone. That is such a good thesis. Like, it's basically been, damn, it looks like they have a nice time, because they don't actually show the fact that you have to do all the cooking and cleaning as prominently as you pay attention to that potential contestants. But that is everyone. There's a real problem in that most of them seem utterly indifferent to the Bachelor or Bachelorette and really invested in some new mates.
Yeah, and I think you see that with Devaney was, it looks like she's about to walk herself out. And her big struggle was that she didn't want to leave the girls. That was what she was grappling with, is that she didn't want to leave the girls. And so I think this is like a real New Zealand problem. I think partially because they don't push, I really don't believe they push the boat out far enough in terms of trying to establish the romantic relationship. Like, production should be on Moses' ass saying, you are contractually obliged to kiss 3 women this week.
That's crazy.
The kiss is the contract.
I know there are some ethical issues with this kind of approach, but come on, it's a romance show.
It's really, really shocking.
He is basically auditioning for Facebook friends. That's like I feel like that's the best that any of these women can hope out of this is to be privy to Moses' private Facebook page.
So somebody described the way Moses acts with the contestants as like a VIP meet and greet.
Yes.
After a Solomeo concert.
Yeah.
Or perhaps, and I sort of thought, maybe almost like, in some cases, like a hospital visit to some fans. Like, it's this really sort of over-the-top kind of hugging and cheeks close together and smiling. And then, who was it? I think it was with Sam. And and he was laughing away and had this sort of exaggerated kind of side hug going on, and his face was close to hers, and she was going, oh, I didn't know, was it the right time to kiss him? Was it the right time to kiss him? It absolutely wasn't the right time to kiss him, because sort of within a flash, like this, a snap, he was sort of out of it and was like, well, nice to hang out with you, see you later.
It's extremely like he's on the clock.
And then Then he axed her, so that maybe was her downfall. Looking like she might want to kiss him. He was like, "Shit! If I get time alone with her next time, she's gonna go for it, and I can't have that."
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we talk about Art's shorts suit? Did you clock his outfit? That first rose ceremony, he was wearing like a blazer, like a suit blazer, and then suit shorts.
I've always thought that should be a thing in New Zealand, but
it is now.
Well, for art, I don't think that necessarily means it translates to the rest of us.
Okay.
Less gifted types. Can we talk about the swap? I generally agree with the thesis that Moses is not a good bachelor and this is not a good season of the show, but the swap was intense. Like just the fact, have they done that before where they've made it such a kind of, and I will keep you, and in exchange I will eject you?
No, I like it.
So visceral. I love it.
Okay.
I think they've had something similar, haven't they, where they bring in the intruders and then there's a big cull.
Yeah, there was
they bring in three
in
intruders and then you've got to get rid of 3 people or something.
In Bachelorette, they had Jessie come in and she was briefed that she had to send one of the, if she wanted to keep Jessie, she had to send someone else home. And then she went and had a private conversation with, I can't remember his name, the one that looked like poor man's Joe.
It was the staging of it, the kind of doing it in front of everyone that was just so much better than because it felt like the Bachelorette, she just started eliminating people wherever she felt like it was. Roses were wherever I deemed to give them away. And I can just chuck anyone overboard whenever there's a body of water nearby. Whereas this was just so intense. It's like, I like you, but not you.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah. It's like it's a very much I like this one who I hardly know better than this one who I've spent the last maybe 4 days, maybe 4 weeks, who knows how to say.
4 days.
But it was poorly set up. I didn't really know what was happening when the first girl walked out and stood in front of Moses. And I was like, what is this? I feel like there could have been an art sort of directed. I mean, because Art's putting himself in the show as much as bloody possible. And then when we actually need him, he's nowhere to be seen. He could have been there saying, we're going to bring out the first of the intruders. Moses is going to make a decision, whether just to set up. Because someone just sort of came out and he was like, you've got a rose, which means you're going home. But I was very surprised he sent Sam and Nikki.
And it was the ruthlessness of it. You know, like he'd give a bit of a preamble as to why he wanted to keep, first up, who's the first one? Annie. And
we know why he wanted to do Annie.
And he'd talk about that. And then he'd just sort of like look over and go, Sam.
Basically, I'm looking at Annie and I'm looking at you and I'm going, I'm sort of, Annie is good and you're bad. It was amazing. So we watched it with our kids and just that little section and Vivian yelled out, "This show is a piece of shit." 7 years old and just like had this intense physical reaction.
I've always maintained that how I can justify watching a show like this as a feminist is that it's a good example of like what not to do in life and what not to want for yourself and your children. And that's Vivi's just been a classic example that supports my theory. She can go in there, she can look at that and go, nah, bullshit. It
was very, very raw.
Okay, let's go on. So we didn't. Moses ruthlessly got rid of Nikki and Sam. He decided to keep Annie. He decided to keep Lydia and sent home Suzanne and Alana.
Is Lydia the first blonde person that he has sort of consciously chosen?
Yeah, I mean...
I was starting to think that, like a blonde lady had run over his cat as a child or something. Like he was just so sort of... It was approaching hate crime levels, just, the ruthlessness with which he was weeding out
It'd be quite
blondes.
brutal, though. Like, just thinking about how Lydia arrived on shore, where Moses didn't have the entire culpability, but certainly he basically had a role in exposing her entire body to then be like, and off you go. Like, there's almost some level, like a couple that should buy you a couple of rounds of just... Like, let's calm this thing down. I'm not issuing a judgment on anything beyond that, but it just seems like if you're going to be game enough to just be relaxed about that should be your reward, to immunities.
Yeah. Chanel's sort of blonde adjacent, and Lana she's got very dark roots and then blonde situation.
Is that not
that might be confusing. Balayage? I don't know.
There was a great quote from Chanel. I can't remember who it was referring to, but talking about one of the new arrivals as another tiny girl who's going to be absolutely delightful.
Yeah.
Chanel is cool, but Chanel's in the moments are just absolutely fantastic.
Let's talk about Chanel's single date. They went parasailing, and she felt like they're like up in the air, and she's like, you're way more... I don't know if she said this one under the air, but anyway, she decided he's way more cool in a date situation than like... in a group situation.
Which is obviously true.
Obviously true.
Incidentally, I did that exact parasailing, potentially even on the same boat this summer. so scary.
Really?
I did it with both my kids, well, two of my 3 kids on either side of me. And they
Is
were
that
both
what was scary
completely
about it?
relaxed. Well, yeah, it was a little bit. Because I was like, this rope, it's just the tiniest rope. And you're like, if this thing snaps, we're about 3 kilometres in the air. And I don't know whether we just fly off into the sun
You were
or just
definitely not.
immediately shoot
You were
straight
not
down.
3 kilometres in the air.
At least 3 kilometres in the air. And it was so bad. And I was like, well, Nikki will be sad and Jed will be sad. It was just, the whole time I was basically panicking and my kids were just having a time. So I was just like, kudos to them for basically being able to have a normal conversation because that shit's scary as hell.
Did you come down from that and feel like a sense of achievement, or like did you come down from that and think, I'm never fucking doing that again?
Definitely a sense of like, I don't have to do that again ever and today. And I voluntarily did it as soon as possible because I was like, that is obviously massively scary. And I get to watch all these other people have to do the scary thing.
Yeah.
So one theory I have is I know obviously they've got tourism tie-ups and that's why they do all the sort of adventure sport. The other thing is, there's kind of well-known cognitive psychology studies about how you tend to be more attracted to people in kind of high-risk situations because your body literally confuses the kind of incidents of fear, like racing heart, sweat, with that of attraction. And I'm starting to think like they're just getting so desperate for Moses to pash someone. They'll like, stage a fake abduction. Or like,
I mean, please, honestly.
Anything.
They even like just loaded them up with oysters at their dinner to try and create some sort of, sense of desire.
Yeah, there's just, he is an extremely not horny man on this show.
He tells her, he uses that really smooth line that she sounds like Minnie Mouse when she laughs. Always works on me.
Oh my God, that was just so weird. That's going to get in someone's head and make them, okay, note to self, never laugh again.
But it was a beautiful segue into top 3 Disney movies.
It was very Disney themed. He was like, today's the Disney date.
Do you think they're doing some spec work to try and get to Disneyland for a future season?
Something's going on.
It's just like, he might as well just be giving them BuzzFeed quizzes to do. Like, sort of, hey, Chanel, are you a real coffee-holic? Which character in High School Musical do you think you most are? Like, but that opened the door.
Yeah.
Because Moses saw Inside Out.
He did, yeah.
And it changed his view of masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Moses is, to give him credit, he's a very interesting character, like much more so than I necessarily, like I don't think he's not great for the show, but I'm like, he is a very interesting person to be a figure of like an archetype of masculinity that the show naturally presents itself as. Even down to like, that's just the opera singing at the table, like being chill about doing that. Like most singers I know, and I know a few, would never, ever, and there's just no planet on which they would do that. And he's just, this is a thing I'm comfortable with.
Again, I mean, that speaks to the hospital visit vibe. I feel like that is definitely something that most singers would opt to do were they at someone's hospital bedside. It was weird that no one who was wandering past, none of the locals even turned their heads.
It might have been like the second take.
Possibly.
Yeah, or it actually was like a 4-hour concert and they were just completely oblivious by that stage.
But Moses tried to open up basically about his struggles with traditional masculinity and the insights that he had by going to Inside Out with his nieces, I think. And in traditional Kiwi style, his attempts to lay bare his feelings were immediately cut off, with Chanel talking about her own experiences with trauma. Nobody wants to hear about vulnerable men.
Hang on. Are you paying out Chanel for talking about how she lost her brother? She should have let Moses finish about how he had to cry at the movies with me. I'm sorry. I have to come to Chanel's defense on this one.
Cancels himself.
No, I think once she actually got into it, I mean, that was actually one of the only genuinely moving things I think I've seen. Well, probably the only one I've seen on the show, since we learned about Lou's backstory. And, and she talked about it in quite a poetic way as well, talking about Tangaroa and her relationship with the sea and the sky.
But how dare she?
It was definitely good. I mean, it was great content. I'm just saying that, like, Moses didn't get a lot of time to explore contested ideals of masculinity in New Zealand.
That's all right. He had a song to
Fair.
bust out to tie it all up with a bow, so it's fine. That was a really touching moment. It was. It's interesting to me that he talks to every single girl about wanting to know their story, and the story to him is just basically a little bit about you.
Yeah,
Whereas
fun fact.
some people like Chanel and Lou really have a story that kind of defines where they are right now because of these great tragedies they've experienced. And I think it would be nice if he came up with a different word for just shit that's happened in your life.
Yeah, any tidbits.
Tidbits for like, I went to uni and did a BA. Story for I lost someone really close to me.
Yeah.
Just if you're listening, Warner Brothers. Together with KiwiBank, the Spin-Off Podcast Network is proud to announce When the Facts Change with Bernard Hickey, your essential weekly guide to the intersection of economics, business and politics in Aotearoa.
Hello, I'm Bernard Hickey. I'm a little bit obsessive about how the economy and interest rates and politics and business works. And I love talking about it. And we're going to start a weekly podcast on the Spin-Off, brought to you in association with KiwiBank, called When the Facts Change. New Zealand faces some huge changes in the next decade or two around how to deal with climate change and how to deal with housing affordability and how to make our economy more productive and dealing with technology change. And those are the things we're going to be talking about on When the Facts Change, a weekly podcast with the Spin-Off, brought to you in association with KiwiBank.
Coming soon to the Spin-Off Podcast Network together with KiwiBank, new episodes of When the Facts Change with Bernard Hickey will be released each Friday. Subscribe now at your favourite podcast provider to make sure you don't miss an episode. We're off to Nelson.
Lovely home. I really like the interior decor and the architecture of this place.
Just speaking of that, so Art comes up and says, you have got 2 hours to get out.
And
to clean.
And make sure to clean up because otherwise the crew has to.
so there's two layers going on here. Not only do the cast have to clean, if they don't do their job properly, the bloody cameraman and soundy and the production manager on hands and knees scrubbing the floor.
So that was the first thing that leapt out, was this totally confirms that they're really running on a shoestring
I talked
here.
about this last week.
But but the other thing is, I'm not sure that the owner of the mansion knew they were there. Like it's, Art was like, we've got 2 hours. 2 hours, everything needs to be gone.
We had eyes on him. He's jumped in his helicopter. We got to go. You know, there's that island up north that David Fisher has been reporting on,
yes,
which has been sort of just taken over. Maybe that was actually where they shot The Bachelor.
They're like, there were 2 busted TVs and 4 cocktail dresses found at the...
After they've scrubbed the shower and cleaned out the loo, they go to pack their stuff and they realise that Chanel's stuff is gone and Negan is spinning out. She's like, nah, I'm going to have to get frickin' ice cream if this is the case.
Love Negan.
She is... Keep her away from the freezer, though.
Oh my God.
Into the ice cream,
Very
into
gate.
the berries.
First actual controversy of the whole series is who's using too much of the countdown frozen berries.
And this again comes back to, the crew cleaning. Everyone's on half rations for the berries.
It still doesn't top...
There's 2 cartons of oat milk for the next 3 weeks.
It still doesn't top allegations that in a previous season of this show, production pulled a rotisserie chicken out of the bin and made the kids feast on it.
Oh, in previous seasons, oh, for sure. Yeah, every toilet in the house blocked.
Yeah. And no water.
We've got to give credit to Warner Brothers New Zealand for, they
They're
should
really
be
making the
shooting
budget
an
stretch.
after-hours show just about kind of castaway conditions.
I think what they're actually doing is some development work on a Survivor-style show.
I did wonder if the fact that you got to clean up was left in. Part of me was hoping. I really hope that Alex did the post-direction on this and it was just a little, we'll see if this gets through.
Ah.
Easter egg for us.
She will never tell us. She's locked in a soundproof room for the rest of her days. Okay. When they go and do their bed bagsing at the new place in Nelson, it was very reminiscent of Top Motto. I loved it. Just all scurrying around. The most important thing in this world is to make sure you get a good bed, not find love. They're looking for Coco. Chanel is inexplicably suddenly renamed Coco.
Well, Coco Chanel?
Well, not inexplicably. I mean, as in, why haven't we heard this before? It's
you
just
can't
suddenly
shoot everything or indeed anything.
And they're looking for her and they're opening cupboards. Like she might be under the sink.
Yeah, she could be. That's maybe behind the berries in the freezer.
It's a group date. Everyone's going except for Kimmy and Shanae, and they're doing archery dodgeball. Once again, this is an art-directed thing. He's bored.
Yeah.
Wants another sport to play.
Gotta say, he won the first, and in the second 2 rounds, he was just taken out. I think by Negan both times. I mean, she's a cop, so she needs to know how to shoot for her job. But really cool to see him just absolutely just taken out of the competition.
I do have an issue with the fact that at one point Moses got someone out by running up and touching them with his arrow. That's not the rules. No.
God damn.
I think he would probably defend himself by saying I didn't want to shoot her at close range, but come on.
Still got to do it.
I liked how they did start getting fiery, particularly in the end when it was raining. But I mean, this is part of the problem with these group dates, right? Is that if you're going to make them activities-based, it's either got to be that the winner, gets the date.
Yeah.
The person who scored the most tries or gets the most kills or whatever. Or it's one where they're talking and interacting.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've formed a real vibe. I really loved how you comported yourself in this.
Yeah.
Negan is the stone cold MVP of this. She wins back the shreds of Moses' dignity after the waka armor and after the first match. She's propping him up, inside out styles. And then he goes and chooses Devaney.
Okay, and
we didn't even see Devaney during the
yeah.
Devaney had previously spoken to Moses about the fact that she everyone's referring to her as the youngest, and it's kind of become a bit of an in-joke, and she's kind of done that thing where she's like, if you can't beat him, join him. But now I feel like it's being reinforced that I'm the youngest contestant. Is that going to be a problem? Moses reassures her, no, that's not an issue. And then he takes her for hot chocolate. I'm surprised he didn't.
If you're allowed to drink yet.
I'm surprised he didn't order her a fluffy. It's in this moment that we find out that Dev is clearly adopted, right? Because she talks about meeting her biological parents, and that's how. So she's got 5 siblings with her family, and then she met her biological parents and found some more siblings. So that's how.
Yeah, she's got 10 step siblings, no full.
No full.
No, which was.
And she's the eldest, right? Yeah, I think she's the eldest. And so I think it's she's gone from a situation where she's the eldest of 11 people into a situation where she's the youngest of 11 people also. Very chill. Very chill. Cocktail party. Kimmy pulls out a list of questions from her boob.
Is this when she talks about, is it okay to listen to old school hip hop and have a gossip on a Saturday morning?
No. This isn't when they're sitting in the room with, you know how all the cocktail parties are divided up into 2 groups of people. She's in the bigger group, and she asks some questions like, "What do you have any nicknames?" and so on. And I think in the moment again, Moses runs her down for.
Yeah, he's like, it feels like a Q&A.
Yeah, totally. It's unbelievable. Having said that, Kimmy did seem like hard work.
Yeah, I liked Kimmy less and less as time has gone on this. I love how, normally when they have a one-on-one space, it's like a little bench with maybe some candles and a blankie, possibly cheese and crackers or so on. Now that they're in Nelson and they're they've got their working budget out and they can see where they're at. No, they can't afford too much more. The TV room is the one-on-one space.
Yeah.
Just pop to the TV room, and it is the TV room in which Annie and Moses found themselves after she did a little "Hello, Moses, are you there?" calling Moses phone call in the room.
That was the single most professional move I've ever seen in any New Zealand Bachelor. It was like, as you were watching it, you were like, chills. This is just, and just imagine being this woman like, oh, it's completely over. Like she's
the winner.
She's the winner.
And the other women were very thought it was totally inappropriate. And if I was one of those other women, I'd be like, okay, inspiration.
Yeah.
Because they thought it was totally inappropriate because they could see how much of a threat it was that she was playing the game as all of those people, someone should have done that on night one, you know?
Yeah. I think, later when they go to the tarot card reading, the wise woman says that Moses is looking for someone sharp and decisive.
Oh.
Right? And he is. He's looking for someone to make the moves. You guys have talked in the past about how he's really bad at producing these scenes and keeping the action going. And so he wants somebody who's got momentum, and that's Annie, right? She's driving the action. Incredibly slick move where she manages to create a sense of intimacy with him in front of all the other contestants.
Is that like a known thing? Like, do people do that?
Oh,
The phone call in front of like is that?
I don't know, but I mean, flirting in front of the rest of the group, it's just everyday activity
kind of what the show is.
on the international
like
version of the show.
All-time great flirting.
It was.
just such a brilliant move.
And she, and what's the golden rule of storytelling? You show, you don't tell. All of the other contestants are stuck in this mode of just taking Moses aside to tell him that they're really into him. I just want you to know. I just want to make sure that you understand.
You didn't see this tarot card as somehow a mark against me, which he did because he believes in wellness culture.
Yeah,
all of it.
But all of the others seem to have skipped the bit between sort of awkward meeting. They've missed the kind of playful flirtation into each other, and now they're just into the what are we conversation.
Yeah.
And Annie is the only one who is giving him that kind of, sparky, will they, won't they, eyebrow movement, joking about you naked, putting some grapes near your junk, taking a bite of the drapes, like she's not just throwing punches, she's using combinations, right? She's like moving seamlessly from one bit to another in a way that is just totally on a different level to everyone else in that show.
And also she's not sharing it all with them. She's opting to, she's showing and telling, not telling to the women as well. She comes back, she's like, I'm not really going to share what happened.
She's using information as currency, and she's not participating in the most important thing is that we form a very intense friendship bond as a group of women. It's just like, unless something massively changes, it's just going to be a procession because no one is remotely interested in joining that, in playing that game as opposed to the, let's hang out game.
We're running very short on time, so I'm just going to have to skip through. She reads out a lovely long poem to him, which I think if anyone else had done it, he would have hated and found really cringeworthy, but because she'd done the phone call and the eyebrow raises and all that, he thought it was great. Kimmy goes into the TV room. It's just like, look, first things first, let's just establish what our relationship would be like. You cool to have some gossip in the car. I want to chat about my friends in a gossipy kind of way. You cool with that? On a Saturday morning, or we're on our way out? Can I run down my mates?
It's not modern hip hop or even sort of early mid 2000s hip hop, old school hip hop. It's so specific. The thing is, Moses is actually sort of game to have a bit of a laugh, even though he doesn't appear that way. But there's something about the way that she framed it, which seemed like, based on the sort of public face of his character, like it was the last thing he could possibly want to do. She is the anti-Annie in terms of just doing everything she can to sabotage whatever advantage she has.
Anyway, she did it so very well because she ended up getting sent home. There was a hedgehog at the end of that episode. They were calling it Shivani. What in the voiceover, they were like,
that was strange.
What was that?
Was that because it was spiky?
I don't know. I don't know
how we felt Shivani came across.
If anyone
right
knows,
at the end,
get into the corner. Facebook.com/groups/RealPod Corner. It is our private Facebook group, and it's a fun time. Okay. Annie scores a single date. They go kayaking. You talk about tourism, sponsorship, kayaking. How much is nzkayaking.com paying? There's so much kayaking on this and the Bachelorette NZ. It's insane. A lot of paddleboarding as well. It's like there's only two things you can do, paddleboard or kayak.
I'm very curious about the extent to which this whole thing was funded by Tourism New Zealand. Like, is that because it feels that way.
Yeah.
It's not, it goes beyond the sort of, we've got to do it all in New Zealand into we are intentionally showcasing the regions and showcasing the regions which have lost tourism dollars. But that doesn't seem to have been sort of declared anywhere. I'm not mad about it. I'm just curious.
I mean, what else would they be doing, though, seriously? rely on the good chats, you know.
Metro lanes.
It's true.
Go for a bowl.
Regarding those kayaks, can I just ask a technical question? What happens if you roll over in one of those? Because you're strapped in. You've got a little skirt on. You drown.
just
Okay,
drown, yeah.
cool. They arrive at this little like a sand spit, and there's 2 glasses of sparkling water there, and they're just like, wow, that looks amazing. So I do wonder if perhaps water's being kept from them back at the house again.
So thirsty. I've been drinking a lot of seawater. And
one of the things that stood out to me on this date, apart from the crotch grapes, was the strawberry. When he bit into that strawberry, it crunched. It sounded like an apple crunch. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, but do you know where it's from? Was that they
The
snuck it
freezer
out
berries.
from the frozen berry bag, which is probably why Negan was getting blamed.
It's production all along. There was a moment I thought they were going to kiss, and Moses just didn't.
But it's so that was, if you're not kissing in that situation,
I mean,
with
when will he pash? That
I don't know if we're going to see it.
I mean, even on the couch with Annie, because as we've established, literally the only person with game on the show, they were both kind of, doing the kind of prep. They were both kind of licking their lips, and he was like looking down at him out, and he just can't seem to cross the longest 6 inches in existence.
Can't seal the deal.
Can't cross the face event horizon.
6 inches is about the size, like 6 square inches of Negan's bikini, which I don't think we're gonna see her in.
not at 7:30 p.m.
No, but that was a lovely scene where Lou whipped out Negan's bikini. It was like tiny scraps of fabric held together by
Sellotape?
It was
very
sellotape.
slender and translucent.
It was translucent plastic straps. I won't be getting one. Group date, this is where they go to the lovely Bigfoot. There's a tarot reading. The tarot lady says to Lydia, have you been a student in the past?
The things
She's
that
like
she's
24,
guessing
right?
are just absolute. There was nothing that was remotely a risk.
No, not at all. You're looking for love. She basically says, this is your time to get on the piss with your mates. You've been a student, go out and enjoy, which this is to Lydia, and Lydia was mortified that Moses might now think, because the great Megan of the Big Boot has suggested that she should go out and get on it with her girlfriends, that she's a party animal and that that's not what Moses is looking for. And how do we know that that's not exactly what Moses is looking for a start?
Well, I mean, Moses doesn't seem to be looking for anyone based
That's
on
true.
his closing. I've got to say, love the boat.
Yeah, I think we should do a real pod trip to the boot.
Absolutely.
And get a tarot
Real
reading by
pod?
Megan.
Live at the boat. Huge.
We might have one corny join us there, and it will be Ben Thomas. Self-funded, by the way. Just to make that clear. He calls Shanae Chanel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
that's
having trouble
second,
with names, which I think just speaks to how invested he is in this, aka not at all.
And you see, and when they have their single date, where they're just sort of eating like scones.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of
It's a Devonshire
that
tea
was
type
a great
situation.
opportunity for a pash. A lot of cream on face, but he seemed like he
And
was
she
genuinely
was
like a mother
definitely
cleaning
leaning
her.
towards, as they're touching each other sort of under their noses. She's coming in, and he's just like leaden, just unmoving, and then just started, fussing with some lavender.
Yeah, and having the
some out of the ground.
having the kind of conversation you have with your grandma, like, oh, I'm thinking of growing some lavender in the garden. And she pulled out the mum card again, like she's cleaning up her face. She just stopped short of licking her thumb and giving it giving his face a wipe. And then he pulls at the lavender and she says, "Don't pull it out if you're not going to use it."
For what?
Because he was picking the lavender.
What was it going to be used? I mean, the whole thing.
I don't know. Anyway, cocktail party, nothing really of any great interest happened. We left the week on Devony crying, wanting to have a quick chat with Moses as the roast ceremony is about to commence. And it's not really a cliffhanger, because you can see from the very obvious promo who's still around.
The
Like
promo
literally
was just-
every single, I think there's like 8 girls left, and there were 7 featured in the promo, so it didn't take a lot to figure out what happened next. I don't want to, no spoilers, but I'm not sure that Devony's going to be here next week, okay?
To be fair, the trailer for next week did actually look pretty did look like they're ratcheting it up a little.
I hope so.
In terms of excitement.
And that's us. That's another week on the Bachelor NZ, and we will be back next week. Not with you probably, Ben, though, sorry. Got to give you a break.
Okay, that's
Been-
right.
You're going to need a lay down for a couple of weeks. Just to gather yourself after the excitement.
Back to maths. at
Back to maths.
7:30.
Yep, Alex and I will be doing maths on the Real Pod feed tomorrow, so please do join us for that. Thank you very much, Duncan. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Cornies. Thank you, Spin-Off members, and we'll catch you again soon.
Kia ora, I'm Duncan Grieve, founder of The Spin-Off. You can help us keep all of The Spin-Off's award-winning journalism free for everybody by becoming a member today at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora, this is Toby Manhire, here to urge you to tune in to Gone by Lunchtime, a podcast with me, Annabelle Lee Mather and Ben Thomas, tackling the world of New Zealand politics, from policy to polling, from scandal to psychodrama. Listen to Gone by Lunchtime, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network, wherever good pods are sold.
The Spin-Off Podcast Network.